This is one of the greatest mysteries that has never been solved, and it involves an entire island that mysteriously vanished. What happened to it? Where did it go? These are questions that scientists have been unable to answer for decades, and because we don't know what really happened, there are plenty of theories. After all, why would someone claim to have seen an island that didn't exist? In 1977, two fishermen spotted it while trying to navigate through a thick fog. At first, it seemed to appear sometime in April or May and then disappear sometime in August or September. And if this island was similar, then it is possible that it simply vanished during particularly high tides between 1968 and 1977. That would explain why so many people reported seeing it and why the Royal Navy was easily able to find it in 1977. It would also explain why the island appears at the same time every single year. That's because tides don't just vary from day to day. It may just be covered by a layer of sand that's being blown about by the wind. During storms, strong winds can cause massive waves that pile up on beaches and push large amounts of sand further out into the water. It is entirely possible that a storm strong enough to form an island like this has occurred several times over the past century. But even if this theory is correct, it still doesn't explain why the island only appears every 25 days, and so we may never know what really happened to the island. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my other videos about disappearing islands. Thanks for watching. But one thing is for sure, it's a fascinating mystery that continues to baffle scientists to this very day. They actually follow a predictable cycle that repeats itself every 25 days. According to this theory, both of the previous theories are correct. Eventually, it will grow large enough that even the highest tides won't be able to wash it away. But even though this theory makes sense, there's still one piece of the puzzle that doesn't quite fit. The island has been reappearing in the same place for centuries, which means that there must be something here causing all of the sand to accumulate. Otherwise, the sand would simply disperse and the island would eventually disappear forever. The island is both made of sand and only a few feet above sea level. That's why it disappears every year during particularly high tides. If this is true, then it would explain why sand is always piling up here. But to date, no one has ever discovered such a cave. Others believe that the island forms near a giant underwater whirlpool. Water that gets sucked down into the whirlpool forms a small depression on the seafloor. And whenever there's a strong current, sand gets caught here and begins to pile up. Still others believe that the island forms along an underwater sand spit. A sand spit is basically a narrow strip of sand that projects out from the mainland. And if one of these sand spits were to become detached, it could form a small island not far from the shore. But it also grows larger every time it reappears. That's because sand is constantly being blown onto the island by strong winds. Basically, every storm that comes through the area adds a little more sand to the island, and over time, the island gets bigger and bigger. This cycle is caused by the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun, and if the island is only a few feet above sea level, then it should reappear at roughly the same time every 25 days. But more recently, it started appearing earlier in the year and staying around longer. Today, the island is visible from December to May each year. But why does it only appear for part of the year? Well, according to one theory, it has to do with the tides. And after reporting its location, the Royal Navy was able to steam to the island with ease. This time, they found not only the crates that had gone missing in 1968, but also a few new structures like a dock and a boathouse. If it's only a few feet above sea level, then it should also only be a few feet above sea level when it reappears. But that's not the case. Every year, the island rises up to the surface fully formed. And so something else must be happening here. Perhaps the island isn't made of solid rock. However, even though it was right there in plain sight, they still couldn't figure out where the island had been hiding all those years. Now, it's true that you won't find many permanent sand islands in the ocean, but it is possible for sand to accumulate in certain areas and form temporary islands. For example, in 2013, a sandbar rose up off the coast of North Carolina and quickly grew into an island that was over 100 acres in size. Eventually, however, waves began to erode the island and it eventually disappeared. Something similar may be happening to this mystery island. That is, it may be a sandbar that's being built up by wave action. And even today, we don't know. But over the next few years, more and more people came forward saying that they had seen this same mysterious island. Because of these reports, the Royal Navy decided to send out a patrol boat to search for it. But they too came back empty-handed. They found no trace of an island or the crates. So today, I want to share with you three of the most interesting ones. It all began in 1968 when an Indian merchant ship called the Captain America steamed into Bermuda waters. On board were crates full of metal ingots that were supposed to be unloaded at the Royal Naval Dockyard in Bermuda. But when the ship arrived, it was discovered that there were several crates missing. The captain reported this to the police, but it wasn't long before he got a call from someone claiming to have found the missing crates. The person who called the captain said they were located on an island just offshore, and so a boat was immediately sent out to retrieve them. But when they arrived at the coordinates provided, they didn't find any crates or an island. There was nothing but open sea. At first, everyone assumed that the whole thing had been some kind of elaborate hoax. In fact, it wouldn't be until 9 years later that the island was finally rediscovered. We do know, however, that the island reappeared near the same spot every single year like clockwork. You see, many of the islands in the area are only a few feet above sea level, meaning that during particularly high tides, they can completely disappear underwater. But even though this theory makes a lot of sense, it doesn't answer one very important question. Where does the island come from? According to another popular theory, the island is actually made of sand. If this is the case, then the island could be deeper than we think. There is, however, one final theory that might be able to explain everything. If this is true, then it's only a matter of time until the island disappears for good. But what could that something be? Some believe that the island forms near the mouth of a previously undiscovered underwater cave. Now, unfortunately, none of these theories have been proven. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think happened to the island? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.